Welcome to BBC International News. First I will tell you the news title and then the details.
Great news, Israeli attack on Rafah will not wipe out Hamas. Update news, 35,000 killed in Gaza. Breaking news, another ground operation in northern Gaza.
Listen to the news title so far, now listen to the details.
Israeli attack on Rafah will not wipe out Hamas. Blinken. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said an all-out Israeli assault on the Palestinian city of Rafah in the Gaza Strip will not eliminate Hamas. Rather, it will incite anarchy. Blinken said this on Sunday. U.S. opposes all-out Israeli attack on Rafah. Washington has increased pressure on Israel not to carry out such attacks. U.S. National Security Advisor Jack Sullivan spoke on the phone with Israel's National Security Advisor Zaki Hanabi. In this phone call, Sullivan informed Hanabi of Washington's concerns about a possible major attack by Israel in Rafah. Sullivan reiterated U.S. President Joe Biden's long-standing concern about a possible major Israeli ground operation in Rafah, the White House said in the phone call. More than 1 million people are sheltered in Rafah. The White House also said Hanabi confirmed Israel was taking U.S. concerns into account. However, nothing has been said in detail about this. 300,000 Palestinians have already been forced to leave the area by Israeli bombardment in the eastern Rafah area. Other countries, including the United States, have warned that a full-scale Israeli attack on Rafah could have a catastrophic effect on the refugees there. Many people are living there in desperate conditions. Israel says it is trying to keep civilian casualties in Rafah to a minimum. A full-scale Israeli attack on Rafah could potentially come at an incredibly high cost, Blinken said in an event on CBS. Even a major offensive in Rafah would not end the Hamas threat. 35,000 killed in Gaza. The death toll from Israel's indiscriminate attacks on Gaza and Palestine for 7 months has exceeded 35,000. Gaza Ministry of Health gave this information yesterday Sunday. Meanwhile, the Israeli forces have started a new ground operation in northern Gaza, as well as in the eastern and central areas of Rafah and the southern part of Gaza. Gaza's health ministry said yesterday that 63 more people were killed in Gaza in 24 hours due to Israeli attacks. With this, the number of people killed in Israeli attacks since October 7th has reached 35,034. 78,755 people were injured. Among the dead Palestinians are 15,000 children and more than 9,000 women. However, the number of casualties is believed to be much higher. It is believed that as many as 10,000 bodies are still lying under the houses and structures destroyed by the Israeli attack. The Gaza Health Ministry is giving these statistics based on the casualties that came to the hospital only. But because of continued Israeli attacks and the breakdown of communications, many bodies cannot be brought to hospitals. Israeli forces have intensified attacks not only in Rafah and Deir al-Balah, but all over Gaza. 45 dead bodies were brought to Al-Aqsa Hospital alone yesterday. The recent death toll indicates the severity of the attacks. Another ground operation in northern Gaza. In addition to the eastern and central areas of the Rafah, Israeli forces have also launched ground operations in northern Gaza. With this, Israel has launched a ground operation for the second time in Jabalia in the northern part of Gaza and for the third time in the Tzaitan area of Gaza City. Israeli forces also ordered residents to evacuate more areas of Gaza. After East Rafah, residents have been ordered to evacuate from the central region as well. Residents of Jabalia and Beit Lahia in northern Gaza were also ordered to evacuate. Many residents are leaving the area on foot as there are no vehicles. The second ground operation in Jabalia, northern Gaza, and the third in the Zaytown area of Gaza City. There have been massive protests in Israel's Tel Aviv demanding more action to free the prisoners. Israeli tanks started to enter the Jabalia refugee camp yesterday. The tanks crossed the Salahuddin Road and entered the refugee camp. There is a fierce battle between Hamas fighters and Israeli forces. Witnesses said Israeli forces surrounded shelters and residential buildings in the densely populated area. The situation there is dire. People are moving in droves to the west of Gaza City. Mahmoud Basil, spokesman for Gaza's Emergency Services Department, said that 16 members of the same family trapped in a house destroyed by the attack in Zaytown area could not be rescued due to direct and deliberate attacks by Israeli forces. Risk of catastrophe. Meanwhile, the United Nations has warned that there is a risk of catastrophe in the event of a direct attack on the crowded town of Rafah. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the release of hostages, and an increase in the delivery of humanitarian aid. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz called the Rafah raid irresponsible. The head of the government of the country that is the second largest supplier of arms to Israel also commented that he had been warned about this. In an interview with the BBC, British Foreign Minister David Cameron said that the United Kingdom opposes the operation in Rafah. There should not be a major operation by the Israeli army. However, Cameron said the UK would not cut off arms supplies to Israel, saying it would strengthen Hamas and reduce the chances of a compromise on the release of hostages. He also commented that the risk of sending British troops to Gaza should not be taken. First U.S.-Israeli rift in 4 decades. The United States and Israel have a long-standing friendship. U.S. President Joe Biden has supported Israel's ongoing attack on Gaza since last October, gave weapons and military equipment,